Today, we're diving headfirst into the most forbidden theory of all. A theory so explosive it reshapes everything we thought we knew about the Sister Wives universe. We're asking the question that's only been whispered in the shadows of fan forums. The question that, if true, changes everything. Was Robyn's first child, Dayton, actually Kody's all along? The official story is clean, polished, and perfectly packaged. But once you tug at the edges, the entire narrative starts to unravel. Before we peel back the layers and uncover the evidence, I need you to do me one quick favor. If you're ready to question the official version and expose the secrets TLC doesn't want you to know, hit that like button right now. And if you're new here, subscribe to Sister Wives Crew and ring that notification bell. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss what comes next. So, let's start with what the Browns have been selling us for more than a decade, the official narrative. Robyn Sullivan, a young single mom of 3, divorced from her first husband, David Jessup, was living in St. George, Utah. She was struggling financially, portrayed as the classic damsel in distress in the world of fundamentalist Mormonism. Then, in 2009, at Mary's suggestion, she meets Kody Brown, the charismatic patriarch. From the moment he saw her, we're told Kody was captivated. He viewed Robyn as a righteous woman who'd stumbled but deserved redemption and a celestial family. In 2010, she became his 4th wife, joining a chaotic but established household. Her 3 children, Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna, were brought into the family fold. A few years later, in a grand gesture, Kody legally adopted them. That process required Mary to divorce Kody so he could legally marry Robyn and secure paternal rights. The story sold to the public was one of rescue, romance, and devotion, a man stepping up to raise children who weren't his. But here's the thing. It's a beautifully crafted illusion. The first crack in the facade? The timeline. Whenever asked for details, Robyn never gives straight answers, only emotional sound bites. She talks about her dark times, her broken past, her struggles. These are deliberate smokescreens designed to tug at heartstrings and deflect real scrutiny. But sympathy isn't our goal. We're after the truth. And the truth hides in the paperwork and dates they've worked so hard to bury. According to official records, Robyn and David Jessup finalized their divorce in 2007. Dayton was born in January of 2000. On the surface, that alone seems to disprove the theory. If Dayton was born in 2000, years before the divorce, case closed, right? Wrong. That's exactly what they want you to believe. The legal divorce in 2007 was just the paperwork. The relationship had reportedly ended long before, which means the real window we need to investigate isn't 2007. It's the period around Dayton's conception, 1998 and 1999. So the question becomes, where was Kody Brown during those years? He was officially living in a plural household. But he was also a traveling salesman, a job that conveniently required him to crisscross Utah, Arizona, and Nevada. He was often gone, unsupervised, free to go wherever he pleased. Janelle herself has admitted Kody was rarely home, leaving wives to handle everything. This wasn't a man stuck in one place. This was a man with opportunity. And where was Robyn? Embedded in the very same tight-knit fundamentalist Mormon circles as the Browns. The Apostolic United Brethren isn't a sprawling church. It's a small, insular community where everyone knows everyone, and family lines constantly overlap. Robyn's family, the Sullivans, were very much a part of this insular world. And Kody Brown? He was already a familiar face within it. The notion that their paths never crossed until that so-called chance meeting in 2009 is, quite frankly, laughable. It contradicts everything about how tightly woven their community was. This is where we introduce our first layer of circumstantial evidence, what we'll call the whispers from the pews. For years, quiet chatter from former church members and people on the fringes of their circle has suggested that Kody and Robyn were linked long before TLC cameras rolled. These accounts, resurfacing in online forums and deep-dive discussions, describe not a sudden courtship, but a long-standing connection. In the late 1990s, Kody was already known for his charm and his wandering eye. Robyn, meanwhile, had a reputation for ambition and a keen awareness of how aligning with the right man could elevate her position. The public narrative casts her as an outsider, a shamed divorcee. But what if that's not the full truth? What if she was deliberately maneuvering within the community, fully aware of who the influential men were? Kody, with a growing family and the charisma that would later catapult him into television, would have been an ideal target. This theory suggests their bond didn't suddenly materialize in 2009. It began much earlier, during Kody's sales trips in the late 90s. a forbidden spark in a world built on rigid rules. Now let's focus on Dayton's birth. He arrived in January 2000, which means he was conceived in the spring of 1999. That's the critical window. The official record says Dayton is the son of David Jessup, Robyn's first husband. But insiders describe the marriage as already fractured by that point. So here's the uncomfortable question. What if, during one of Kody's frequent trips, he and Robyn crossed a line? What if a brief affair, hidden in secrecy, led to a pregnancy that had to be covered up at all costs? In their culture, a child conceived through an affair between two married people would have been catastrophic, grounds for excommunication and public disgrace. The only solution? To pass the baby off as David's. Whether David truly believed Dayton was his or simply agreed to go along with the ruse remains unknown. But the marriage limped along for years, a fragile cover concealing a dangerous secret. Fast forward to Sister Wives. Watch those early episodes again, but this time through the lens of this theory. Kody's behavior toward Dayton doesn't read like a man cautiously earning the trust of his fiancé's child. It reads like something far deeper. He zeroes in on Dayton with an intensity that feels primal. The bond isn't built, it's claimed. When Dayton's Asperger's diagnosis was revealed, Kody didn't treat it as something he needed to learn about. He framed it as something mystical, saying, "I just get him. We have a special bond." Was this the intuition of an unusually attentive stepfather, or the innate recognition of a biological father? Consider the ATV accident. Dayton's serious eye injury shook Kody to his core. His reaction wasn't simply caring, it was frantic, visceral, overwhelming. He wasn't just supporting Robyn through the crisis. He took control. He became the central figure in Dayton's care. His fear, his guilt, his urgency, it all reads less like a stepfather and more like a man terrified of losing his firstborn son. Now look at Robyn. Her on-screen persona has always been drenched in tears and victimhood. But if this theory is true, those tears take on a new meaning. They're not just from sensitivity, they're the cracks in a mask. A defense mechanism honed over decades of guarding a life-altering secret. Every time the past gets too close to the surface, the waterworks start. It's a perfect strategy. It shuts down probing questions, turns suspicion into pity, and repositions Robyn as the wounded dove rather than a woman with something to hide. Her vague accusations against David Jessup, casting him as abusive without providing detail, also serve another purpose, discrediting him in advance. If he ever spoke out, who would believe him? And then there's the adoption. Framed on the show as an act of devotion, it takes on an entirely different shade if this theory holds. Kody wasn't just adopting Robyn's children out of love. He was erasing Dayton's legal father once and for all. The price? Mary's legal marriage. She divorced Kody so Robyn could marry him and push the adoption through. This wasn't sacrifice for love. It was sacrifice for possession. Kody securing the legal claim to his secret son. Once Mary served her purpose, her position became meaningless, explaining Kody's coldness toward her in later years. This was a monumental event, stripping Mary of her legal status and security after decades of marriage. It was sold to the audience and to Mary as a noble act for the sake of the children. But was it? Or was Kody so desperate to legally claim Dayton, his biological son, that he was willing to sacrifice his legal bond with his first wife to do it? The adoption wasn't an act of love. It was an act of possession. It was Kody Brown using the legal system to retroactively claim the son he had fathered in secret years earlier. It was about closing the loop, burying the past, and ensuring that no one could ever challenge his position as Dayton's one and only true father. It also explains Kody's utter coldness and dismissal of Mary in the years that followed. Once she had served her purpose, once she had stepped aside so he could legally secure his biological son and his true soulmate, she became disposable to him. He got what he wanted, and her sacrifice was quickly forgotten. This theory, and only this theory, provides a rational explanation for the most toxic and destructive element in the Brown family's history. The blatant, unapologetic, and family-shattering favoritism shown to Robyn and her children. For years, viewers and the other wives have been baffled by it. Why was Kody willing to burn his entire family to the ground for Robyn? Why were her children's needs always placed above the needs of the other 13 children? Why was the family's collective money funneled into Robyn's large house and her children's lifestyles, while Janelle's kids lived in an RV and Christine struggled to be heard? It makes no sense if Robyn is just the fourth wife. It seems illogical, self-destructive, and cruel. But if Dayton is Kody's biological son, conceived in secret years before Robyn officially joined the family, then everything snaps into focus with terrifying clarity. Robyn is not just the fourth wife. She is the keeper of the original secret. The woman who gave him his firstborn son. Kody's relationship with her isn't just a marriage. It's a pact. His fierce protection of her and her children is not just favoritism. It's the desperate act of a man protecting the evidence of his greatest transgression. The other children, the OG 13, were not just jealous of a new wife getting more attention. Children are perceptive. They have an innate sense of fairness and authenticity. They felt on a primal level that something was fundamentally wrong. They were witnessing a profound injustice that they couldn't articulate. They were watching their father lavish a unique and intense form of affection and resources on one set of children. And it felt like a betrayal because he wasn't just neglecting them in favor of a new family. He was prioritizing a secret family that existed in his heart and in reality long before they were forced to accept them. The resentment from Christine's and Janelle's children wasn't just teenage angst. It was a reaction to a lie that permeated their entire existence. They were being asked to accept a false narrative, to pretend that this new family was just like them when their father's actions screamed that they were not. They were special. They were different. Because their connection to Kody was built on a secret that predated and superseded everyone else's. Let's dig deeper into the forensic analysis of their on-screen statements. We need to look for the Freudian slips, the moments where the truth almost bubbles to the surface. There's a scene in an early season where Kody is talking about his instant connection to Robyn's kids. He says something to the effect of, "It was like they were my own from the very beginning." We all heard that as a sweet romantic sentiment. But what if it was a literal factual statement? What if he was for a fleeting moment telling the absolute truth, hiding it in plain sight? Then there is Robyn. In one of her many tearful confessionals about her past, she makes a very strange and specific statement. She says she had to guard her virtue even within her first marriage. She frames this as being about the joyless and difficult nature of her relationship with David Jessup. The popular interpretation is that this was her way of explaining her purity and why she was essentially a born-again virgin when she met Kody. But what if that phrase had a darker, more literal meaning? What if guarding her virtue was a coded way of saying she was unfaithful? What if it was her justification for seeking a connection outside of her unhappy marriage? It's a masterful piece of manipulation, using the language of religious piety to confess a transgression. She is essentially saying, "My first marriage was so bad I was justified in what I did." Now let's examine the so-called evidence from old family media, the digital breadcrumbs they tried to erase. There have been persistent, though unverified, claims of old blog posts from the late 2000s before the show began from a blog peripherally associated with the Brown family's church community. These posts, which were allegedly scrubbed from the internet once the show became a hit, are said to have contained some very telling details. One such alleged post from 2008, a full year before Kody and Robyn officially met, supposedly mentioned Robyn Sullivan by name, referring to her as a friend of the family who was going through a difficult time. A friend of the family. How could she be a friend of the family a year before Mary supposedly introduced her to Kody for the first time? This single rumored blog post, if it ever existed and is not just fan fiction, would be a smoking gun. It would prove that the official timeline is a complete fabrication and that Robyn was in the Browns' orbit long before they claimed. Another report from an alleged former church member claims to have seen Kody's vehicle in St. George, Robyn's hometown, on multiple occasions between 2007 and 2009 during times when he was supposedly on sales trips. Coincidence or a man visiting his secret love and his secret son? The pieces begin to form a mosaic of deception. You have the insular community, where everyone knows everyone, making a long-term secret connection entirely possible. You have Kody, the traveling salesman with the freedom to move about unseen. You have Robyn trapped in an unhappy marriage. You have a conception window for Dayton that aligns perfectly with a potential affair. You have a divorce that conveniently happens years later, muddying the timeline. You have Kody's immediate, intense, and almost obsessive bond with Dayton, a bond that he himself describes as uniquely powerful. You have Robyn's carefully constructed victim narrative and her strategic vagueness about her past. You have the monumental legal maneuver of the divorce from Mary and the adoption, which looks less like a sacrifice for love and more like a desperate power play to secure legal ownership of his biological heir. And finally, You have the devastating family-destroying favoritism that makes absolutely no sense unless there is a secret of this magnitude at its core. When you lay it all out, the official story seems like the least plausible explanation. The forbidden theory, as shocking as it is the only one that accounts for all the facts, all the bizarre behavior, and all the emotional carnage we've witnessed for 14 years. It is the master key that unlocks every mystery of the Brown family. The story of Sister Wives is not the story of a man trying to live a plural marriage. It is the story of a man who committed an act of infidelity that resulted in a child, and then spent the next 20 years building an elaborate televised cover-up. He didn't bring Robyn into the family to add a wife. He brought Robyn into the family to bring his son home. The entire plural family, the other 3 wives and 13 children, were not his life's great passion. They were the cover. They were the camouflage he needed to legitimize the one relationship and the one child that truly mattered to him. Mary, Janelle, and Christine were not his partners. They were his props. Their children were not his priority. They were the supporting cast in the Kody and Robyn show. This redefines their entire story from a flawed experiment in polygamy to a massive decade-long conspiracy. Kody didn't fail at plural marriage. Plural marriage was simply the vehicle for his deception. He used the principles of his faith, the trust of his wives, and the innocence of his children to construct a reality that would allow him to be with the woman he truly loved and the son he had fathered in secret. All under the guise of religious devotion. Let's consider the psychological toll of such a secret on the main players. For Kody, it would explain his increasing narcissism and paranoia. Living a lie of that magnitude requires you to become the hero of your own story. You have to believe your own propaganda. He had to justify his actions to himself, which meant elevating Robyn to the status of a soulmate and demoting the other wives to nagging burdens. His rage at Christine and Janelle for leaving is not the anger of a rejected husband. It is the fury of a man whose carefully constructed cover story is being dismantled. They weren't just leaving him. They were threatening to expose the hollow foundation of his entire life. For Robyn, it explains her perpetual state of anxiety and her need for absolute control. She is not just a wife trying to find her place. She is a co-conspirator, constantly on guard, managing the secret and ensuring her position and the position of her children remains secure. Her need for Kody's undivided attention isn't just neediness. It's a constant reaffirmation of their pact. She needs to know that he will continue to protect the secret and, by extension, protect her. And what of Dayton, the innocent party in all of this? The innocent party in all of this. He is the secret that Kody and Robyn have spent their lives protecting. And the collateral damage of that protection is the emotional well-being of 13 other children and 3 other women. The complete implosion of the family isn't a tragedy about the failure of plural marriage. It is the inevitable karmic consequence of a deception so profound it could only end in ruin. The truth, as they say, will out. And while it may never be spoken aloud on a TLC stage, the evidence of the lie is written in every tear, every fight, and every broken relationship that has littered our screens for over a decade. The forbidden theory is not just a theory, it is the only logical conclusion. The story of Sister Wives begins and ends with a secret, and that secret's name is Dayton. Let's continue our descent into the rabbit hole. We have laid out the foundation of the most forbidden theory in the Sister Wives universe, that Kody and Robyn's relationship did not begin in Tozine, but years earlier, resulting in the secret conception of her first child, Dayton. We've examined the suspicious timeline, Kody's unnaturally intense bond with Dayton, Robyn's strategic victimhood, and how the legal adoption served as a final desperate move to secure Kody's claim and erase the past. Now we must turn our attention to the collateral damage and the other players in this twisted drama. Because the evidence of this grand deception isn't just in what Kody and Robyn did, it's in how their actions destroyed everyone around them. The key to any successful cover-up is silence. And the silence of one man in particular is perhaps the most damning evidence of all. David Jessup, Robyn's first husband, and the man whose name is on Dayton's birth certificate. Where is David Jessup? In a world of reality television, tell-all books, and tabloid interviews, his silence is deafening. For over a decade, his ex-wife and his children have been public figures. His character has been systematically assassinated on national television. Robyn has vaguely but consistently painted him as a controlling, abusive, and unloving husband and father, creating a narrative that made Kody's arrival seem like a divine rescue. And yet David Jessup has never come forward to defend himself. He has never given an interview to set the record straight. He has never publicly challenged Robyn's version of events. Why? Is it because he is the monster she claims he is and he's simply hiding in shame? Or is there another more plausible explanation? In the context of our theory, his silence is not an admission of guilt. It is a condition of the cover-up. Let's explore the possibilities. Possibility 1, he was paid for his silence. It's not out of the realm of possibility that a non-disclosure agreement with a hefty financial settlement was put in place during the divorce or adoption proceedings. Kody and Robyn, with a lucrative TLC contract on the horizon, would have had the means and the motive to ensure David Jessup would never become a problem. They needed to control the narrative, and the easiest way to control it is to buy the silence of anyone who could contradict it. Possibility 2, he was threatened. The AUB community is a powerful and insular world. Social and religious pressure can be wielded as a weapon. Perhaps he was told that if he spoke out, he would be completely ostracized, not just from his community, but from any future relationship with his other 2 children, Aurora and Brianna. He may have made the calculated decision that silence was the price he had to pay to maintain any semblance of connection to his daughters. But there is a third, more chilling possibility that David Jessup knows Dayton is not his biological son and was a willing or perhaps coerced participant in the initial deception. Let's revisit the late 90s. Imagine a young, deeply religious couple in a failing marriage. Robyn becomes pregnant after an affair. The scandal would be catastrophic for everyone involved. What if a deal was struck? What if Kody even then promised Robyn a future? A way out if she could just keep the secret until the time was right. In this scenario, David agrees to claim the child as his own to avoid public shame and religious condemnation, with the understanding that the marriage is effectively over. He lives a lie for several years, a placeholder father, until Kody is finally in a position to execute his master plan. This would explain the seemingly amicable nature of the adoption. On the show, it's presented as David simply giving up his parental rights because he was a bad father who didn't care. But the legal process of terminating parental rights is not that simple. It often requires consent. What if David consented not out of apathy, but because he knew he was not the biological father, and the adoption was simply the legal formalization of a truth that had been hidden for years? His silence is not the silence of a guilty abuser. It is the silence of a man who was the first casualty of the Kody and Robyn conspiracy. He was a pawn used and discarded. His name tarnished to protect a secret that was far more explosive than a simple unhappy marriage. Now let's contrast Kody's relationship with Dayton to his relationship with his own biological sons, particularly the sons he had with Janelle and Christine. If the favoritism was simply about a shiny new family, you would expect it to fade over time as the novelty wore off. It did not. It intensified. The disparity in his treatment of Dayton versus his treatment of boys like Logan, Hunter, Garrison, and Gabriel is perhaps the most heartbreaking proof of our theory. Logan, his firstborn son with Janelle, was a responsible, parentified child who stepped up to help raise his younger siblings. Kody respected him, but where was the intense, obsessive, emotional connection? Where was the desperate need for Logan's approval? It wasn't there. Hunter, Garrison, and Gabriel have all spoken, either directly or through their mothers, about the profound emotional neglect they experienced from their father, especially after Robyn entered the family. The most damning example is the infamous phone call on Gabriel's birthday. Kody, having forgotten the day, calls his son and proceeds to have a conversation not about Gabriel, but about his own CO-19 symptoms, showing a staggering level of self-absorption and a complete lack of emotional attunement to his child's needs. Gabriel is left sobbing, mourning the loss of the father he once knew. Compare that to Kody's laser focus on Dayton. Everything in Dayton's life is a matter of paramount importance. His college choice, his living situation, his emotional well-being, these are all top priorities that the entire family structure must bend to accommodate. When Kody talks about Dayton, his voice changes. There is a sense of pride, of wonder, of profound connection. When he talks about Garrison and Gabriel, his voice is filled with anger, resentment, and disappointment. He calls them jerks who need to apologize to him. He has publicly and repeatedly disparaged them. Why? Why would a father so easily discard his biological sons while clinging so desperately to his adopted son? It makes no sense unless the labels are wrong. The theory suggests that Kody's psyche has performed a profound reversal. Dayton is not his adopted son. He is his true firstborn, the son of his soulmate, the product of his great secret love. Garrison and Gabriel in Kody's twisted mind represent the other wives, the obligations, the life he had before his real life with Robyn began. His anger towards them is a projection of his resentment for the wives he felt trapped by. They are a constant reminder of the years he had to wait to claim his true family. He is not just neglecting them, he is punishing them for not being Dayton. He is punishing them for being the sons of the wrong women. This isn't just poor parenting. It's a psychologically transparent display of a deeply held secret. His heart knows who his real son is, and his behavior follows suit regardless of what the birth certificates say. Let's follow the money because the financial trail of the Brown family tells a story of its own. It's a story of a massive systematic transfer of wealth and resources from the collective family pot into the hands of Robyn and her children. This began subtly at first. Nicer rental homes, more fashionable clothes, but it culminated in the disastrous move to Flagstaff, Arizona. The move itself was nonsensical from a financial and logistical perspective. They left a stable 4-home cul-de-sac in Las Vegas, where they had equity and community for a patch of undeveloped land and a portfolio of expensive, scattered rental properties, and one massive purchased home. Who drove this move? Robyn. She claimed she wanted her kids to have a better, more rural life, and that Dayton had been accepted to a college there. Once again, Dayton's needs became the justification for a decision that upended the lives of 18 other people and sent the family into a financial tailspin. Let's look at the outcome. After the move, Kody and Robyn purchase a $1 million home with a 5-bedroom room, 4-bath layout complete with a forested backyard. Meanwhile, Christine is in a cramped rental. Janelle is forced to buy a 5th-wheel trailer to live on the undeveloped land because she has no other housing options. And Mary is rattling around a huge rental by herself, paying a premium. The family's shared money, much of which was earned by the OG wives through their own ventures and the show's early success, was funneled into securing a luxurious lifestyle for the one wife and her children, while the others were left to struggle. This isn't just poor financial management. It is a deliberate and strategic allocation of resources. In Kody's mind, he wasn't draining the family funds. He was investing in his real family's future. He was building a kingdom, not for his 20-person plural family, but for the lineage he started in secret with Robyn. The Coyote Pass property, the supposed communal dream, has sat undeveloped for years. Why? Because it was never the real goal. The real goal was securing the future for Robyn and her kids, especially Dayton, his secret heir. The most overt piece of evidence for this financial and emotional hierarchy is the name of their family business, Dabsark Entertainment, LLC. Think about that for a moment. This is the legal entity that manages the family's income from the show. It is the financial heart of the entire Brown clan. And what does the name stand for? Dayton, Aurora, Brianna, Solomon, Ariella, Robyn, Kody. It is an acronym for Kody, Robyn, and their 5 children. The other 3 wives and 13 children are completely erased. They do not exist in the legal framework of the family's own business. Can you imagine a more blatant declaration of who Kody considers his real family? This isn't a subtle clue. It is a flashing neon sign. He legally and financially defined his family as Team Robyn. The others were just employees. This business name is a confession in plain sight. It tells you everything you need to know about the power structure and the emotional truth of the Brown family. It was never an equal partnership. It was always a monarchy with King Kody, Queen Robyn, and their designated heirs. Now we must re-examine the role of Mary Brown, the architect of her own demise. The official story is that Mary, feeling lonely and wanting to please Kody, found Robyn and encouraged the courtship. She saw a kindred spirit and wanted to share her husband with a friend. It's a story of naive generosity, but it's far more likely that she was masterfully manipulated. Kody and Robyn, having maintained their secret connection for years, needed a legitimate way to bring her into the family. A chance meeting would be too suspicious. But an introduction from the first wife? That was perfect. It was unimpeachable. Kody likely spent months, if not years, grooming Mary for this role. He would have complained about his loneliness, about how the other wives didn't understand him, about his desire for a deeper, more spiritual connection. He would have planted the seed in Mary's mind that finding a new wife, a specific type of new wife, would solve all their problems and bring him closer to her. He and Robyn likely orchestrated the entire chance meeting at the behest of Mary's parents. It was a setup from the start, and Mary was the unwitting pawn. She thought she was bringing in a sister wife. In reality, she was opening the Trojan horse that would destroy her family and her life, her reward for this loyalty, complete and utter abandonment. After she legally divorced Kody so he could marry Robyn and adopt the children, the final act needed to secure the cover-up. He was done with her. their relationship, which was already strained, flatlined. He publicly stated he no longer considered himself married to her and had no desire for an intimate relationship with her. He had gotten what he needed from her. She had served her purpose. She had legitimized his soulmate's entry into the family and then had legally stepped aside so he could claim his secret son. Her usefulness was at an end. These are presented as a personal health struggle. But what if they are something more? What if they are a physical manifestation of the unspoken tension in their home? Children are emotional barometers. They absorb the anxieties and secrets of their parents. Living in a house built on a foundational lie, a house where your mother is in a constant state of high alert, defending her position, managing a decades-old secret, would create an environment of immense, persistent underlying stress. Aurora's panic attacks could be her body's way of screaming a truth. That her mind is not allowed to acknowledge that nothing is as it seems, that their safety is fragile, and that their entire world is predicated on a lie that must never be exposed. And what about Solomon and Ariella, the two children Kody and Robyn had together? They are the only children in the Brown family who have never known a reality outside of the Kody-Robyn monarchy. They are being raised in the aftermath of the war in the gilded cage of the Flagstaff mansion. Their understanding of their family history is being curated by the two people with the most to hide. To them, Mary, Janelle, and Christine are not founding mothers of their family. They are the difficult women who left and hurt their father. Their 18 other siblings are not an integral part of their lives. They are distant relatives. The children of the women who caused all the problems. Solomon and Ariella are not just as the children of Kody and Robyn. They are the inheritors of the revised history. The first generation of Browns to be raised on the propaganda of the cover-up. They are being taught that their family unit is the only one that ever truly mattered. A belief that will only serve to further isolate them and perpetuate the cycle of division and secrecy. Let us now deconstruct the central pillar of their propaganda, the soulmate narrative. This is the justification for everything. The favoritism, the financial disparities, the emotional neglect of the other family members. It is all excused under the banner of a once-in-a-lifetime love, a spiritual connection that transcends the rules. But if our theory is correct, the soulmate narrative is not a romantic truth. It is a calculated alibi. They have to be soulmates. They must believe and, more importantly, make everyone else believe that their connection is a matter of cosmic destiny. Because if they are not soulmates, what are they? They are a man and a woman who engaged in an adulterous affair, conceived a child, and then systematically dismantled a family of 18 other people to legitimize their relationship. They are not star-crossed lovers. They are the architects of a slow-motion televised demolition. The soulmate narrative is the holy water they sprinkle on their sins. It is the language they use to recast their profound selfishness as a spiritual quest. Kody didn't break his covenants with his other wives because he was a narcissist. He did it because heaven demanded he be with Robyn. It's a breathtakingly arrogant and self-serving piece of revisionist history, and it is the only thing protecting them from the cold, hard truth of their actions. This reframes Kody's relationship with his own faith as one of convenience, not conviction. He has consistently used the language of the AUB and fundamentalist Mormonism to justify his desires. When he wanted to marry Robyn, he received a revelation. When he wanted to move the family to Flagstaff, it was a vision for their future. This theory suggests that Kody's faith is not his guide. It is his tool. He wields religious language like a weapon and a shield, using it to demand obedience from his family and to deflect criticism from the outside world. How could anyone argue with God's will? It's a classic tactic of a charismatic leader who bends the rules of the system to serve his own agenda. He didn't follow the principles of plural marriage. He exploited them. He used the structure of a patriarchal religion to create a kingdom where his word was law, and his primary law was the protection and elevation of Robyn and their secret family. The ultimate irony is that in his quest to build what he saw as his perfect celestial family, he may have committed the very sins that his faith warns will keep him from it. Nowhere is this betrayal more poignant than in the story of Christine Brown. Christine entered the family as the true believer. She was polygamy royalty, the daughter of a prominent leader in their faith. She wanted the family, not just the man. She believed in the principle with her whole heart. For 20 years, she swallowed her pain, accepted her place as the third wife, and raised a house full of happy, well-adjusted children, all while being openly disdained by her husband. Kody's cruelty towards her in the later seasons, his infamous "I'm not attracted to you" speech, his refusal to be intimate, his dismissal of her emotional needs takes on a new, more sinister meaning in light of our theory. He wasn't just falling out of love with her, he was punishing her for not being Robyn. Christine was the living embodiment of the life he had before his real life began. A constant reminder of the obligations he had to endure while waiting to bring his secret son home. His emotional abuse of her was not just neglect. It was a systematic campaign to devalue her, to make her feel so worthless that she would never challenge the supremacy of Queen Robyn. Her decision to leave was not just an act of self-preservation. It was a revolution. It was the act of a woman waking up from a 25-year-long trance, realizing that the religion she had built her life around had been co-opted into a personality cult, and the family she had dedicated her life to was a sham. Her finding happiness and a new monogamous love is not just a happy ending. It is a powerful indictment of the fraudulent world she escaped. This brings us to the most tragic and difficult part of this story, the profound and undeniable human cost, particularly for the OG 13 children. The most visible and heartbreaking manifestation of this was the on-screen disintegration of Kody's relationship with his sons, Gabriel and Garrison. This was not a typical father-son squabble. It was a fundamental schism rooted in Kody's demand for absolute loyalty, not just to him but to Robyn when the boys as young men began to question his draconian co-rules. Rules that conveniently allowed him to isolate himself with Robyn and their children while neglecting the rest of the family. Kody did not see it as a difference of opinion. He saw it as treason. He framed their independence as a personal attack on Robyn. He demanded apologies that they felt were unwarranted. He was, in essence, asking his biological sons to choose between their own autonomy and their father's new family. He was asking them to bend the knee to the queen. Their refusal to do so resulted in an estrangement so deep and so painful that it left Gabriel sobbing on national television, mourning the loss of his father. Kody's inability to love his sons unconditionally, his need to place his allegiance to Robyn above his relationship with his own children, is the ultimate proof of the theory. The pact he made with her in secret all those years ago superseded the sacred pact a father has with his son. The consequences of this choice, the emotional wounds it created, are the most devastating legacy of the entire Sister Wives saga. It is a haunting reminder that the choices made in secret can echo for decades, causing damage that can never be fully repaired. So where does that leave us? We are left with a mountain of circumstantial evidence so high that it casts a permanent shadow over the official narrative. We have the motive, a secret love, and a secret child that needed to be legitimized. We have the means, Kody's freedom as a traveling salesman, and the insular nature of their community. We have the opportunity, a window of time in '99 that aligns perfectly with Dayton's conception. We have the pattern of behavior, 2 decades of systematic favoritism, financial manipulation, and emotional abuse directed at anyone who posed a threat to the Kody-Robyn alliance. We have the supporting evidence, the silence of David Jessup, the Dobsar confession, the convenient religious revelations, and the on-screen psychological breakdown of a family torn apart from the inside. There will never be a DNA test presented on a TLC reunion special. Kody and Robyn will go to their graves, clinging to their official story, to their soulmate propaganda. But we don't need a DNA test. The proof is not in their blood. It is in the wreckage. The proof is in the 13 OG children who feel abandoned by their father. The proof is in Mary, a first wife legally and emotionally discarded. The proof is in Janelle, forced to choose between her sons and her husband. The proof is in Christine, who had to leave a faith and a family to find her own self-worth. The proof is in the bitter, isolated man screaming at a camera. A king who has lost his kingdom, left with only the woman who helped him build his castle on a foundation of lies. The ultimate betrayal of Sister Wives is not that plural marriage failed. It is that it was never really being practiced in the first place. What we were watching was not a family. It was a cover story. And now the story is over. The camouflage has been stripped away. And what we are left with is the haunting final image. Kody and Robyn alone in their mansion, surrounded by the spoils of a war they won, but utterly defeated. They have each other, man. They have their secrets. And in the end, that is all they have left. The question for you, the viewer, is not whether you believe this theory is true. The question is, after seeing the evidence laid out, can you possibly believe that it isn't? Can you ever watch this show from the very first episode to the very last the same way again? And as the credits roll and she sits alone with her king in their castle, surrounded by the ghosts of the family they destroyed, we are left with the chilling final verdict. She won. She got everything she ever wanted. It just cost everyone else everything they had. And now I turn the final judgment over to you, the Sister Wives crew. We have been on a deep, dark journey together through this 3-part investigation. We've laid out all the evidence from the forbidden theory of Dayton's parentage to the spirit baby hoax and now the playbook of the puppet master herself. I need to hear from you in the comments below. After weighing all the evidence, what is your final verdict? Is Robyn Brown a simple sister wife who found love against the odds, or is she the most calculated and successful manipulator in reality television history? Let me know which of her tactics you think was the most devastating to the family. If this investigation has finally exposed the truth you've always suspected, show your support for this channel by hitting that like button. It tells YouTube that more people need to see this. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because our work of peeling back the layers of this story is far from over. And if you landed on this video first, you have to go back and watch the other 2 parts of this investigation. Click the playlist on your screen right now to uncover the shocking theories about Dayton's secret parentage and the faked miscarriage that started it all. You won't believe how deep this rabbit hole truly goes. Thank you for reading. And remember, the cameras only show you the story they want you to see. We're here to find the one they don't.